Welcome to Dynasty Baseball Tonight. We're just going to kind of do an overview and maybe look at some trade targets. If you've got some injuries that you need to, and you need to find someone on the waiver wire that you can pluck and plug them in there for as much time as is needed. There are always some nice options in most leagues, but myself being a veteran of the Dynasty format, Dynasty can be tricky when it comes to injuries and waivers. Dynasty teams tend to have larger benches, and depending on the size of your league, it could be slim pickings at times on the waiver wire, but there are always going to be some diamonds in the rough, right? Look at players like Ben Rice, who I am very sad to say that I dropped last year during a very cold spell. And actually, two other guys in my my primary Dynasty league, we were chatting about this the other day. That someone else brought it up first. They said the shame I feel for having dropped Ben Rice and Andy Pages. And I said, dude, I dropped both of those guys too last year. Now, Ben Rice actually was traded for in my league this year by the last place team who's just gathering a bunch of prospects and picks and stuff. And I feel like he gave them away for not too much. So I don't know that I loved the trade, but anyway, Ben Rice has absolutely been one of those guys that most people did find on waivers last year. And so anyway, let's look at, we'll set a couple filters here and look at who's hot and who's not. So we can take a look at, first we're looking right here at our season total overall rankings for batters. And Aaron Jordan still the king right now, with Aaron Judge now on the shelf for what looks like is going to be at least a month, possibly longer. It's sounding like maybe the longer end of that 4 to 6 week timetable. Jordan is looks like he's in prime territory to take advantage of the Aaron Judge sized hole, and of course last year's home run champion Cal Raleigh, or home run leader Cal Raleigh, also on the injured list. So Jordan also hitting for average. OPS is a whopping 1077 right now. He's just dialed in. So anyways, so our top five: Jordan, James Wood, Nick Kurtz, Ben Rice, O'Neal Cruz. If you own any of these players, you are sitting pretty right now, I would wager. And these three teams right here we're just looking in my primary Dynasty league, these three teams right here. Look at this guy. He's got Kurtz, Rice, and O'Neal Cruz. Yeah, he's happy right now. He traded for Ben Rice. And anyways, so yeah, but these three teams, first, second, and third place. Not surprisingly. So, but how hot are these players right now? And if we, and this is where we can look at maybe some trade targets. I like to look at 30 days. I think 2 weeks is probably a little bit too short of a time period. And as you can tell, Ohtani finally dusting off that cold streak. Nick Kurtz, what can you say, man? A guy who's been in the top 5 for most of the year, number 1 over the last 30 days. James Wood, Jordan, all these guys. If you own any of them and are looking to get a big haul, or maybe they're the only solid piece in your lineup right now, if you're going to move any of those guys, honestly, Jordan would be the one that I would say is worth moving over Wood or Kurtz. Wood or Kurtz, They're too young. They're too hot right now. James Wood is sort of, obviously there is still reason to be weary after the second half of the season that he had last year. But it certainly, to me, now does look like this guy is a full-on superstar. That maybe last year was just a cold spell that happens to all players. Aaron Judge has notoriously gone back and forth between seasons, batting north of 300 and then, 250 or whatever. Look at Kyle Schwarber, same thing. Kyle Schwarber is a guy who, look at in the last 30 days, hitting 275, 1062, but then he'll have months where he hits, entire month or two where he bats south of the Mendoza line. So it's something that all batters go through. And so I think James Wood is for real. No way I'm moving him. If I'm moving anyone on this list, if I am a person looking to get a big return, including multiple players, if I'm moving anyone on this list of players that are hot over this amount of time, 30 days, obviously you're going to factor in age, guys that are 30 years old or older, which would be Marte, Ramirez, Schwarber. Alvarez is getting closer. Soto. Those would be the guys. I'm not touching him, or him, obviously. They're damn near untradeable. But at any rate, whoops. Let's get back to that. Let's look at trade targets. Well, actually, I missed somebody. The very next person, Freddie Freeman. Now, Freddie Freeman is, no, not a betting website. I'm just talking about fantasy baseball. Now, Freddie is, to me, a guy who is a steady Freddie, right? And I've got him on my Dynasty team. I actually traded for him this year. I got a pretty nice return for Rafi Devers, and Freddie was one of the pieces in that trade. And but I would not be adverse to moving him. While he's hot, he's swinging a hot bat. He's got 6 bombs over the last month and is hitting 264, 908 OPS. Very productive in that Dodgers lineup. And if you need to flip an aging bat, I mean, there's just, even someone like Freddie that's been as consistent as they come, you just can't fight Father Time, right? And he is, I believe, 35 or 36 years old. At any rate, he, I would say, has maybe a year left of elite level production, and anything beyond that he's just being carried by the quality of the Dodgers lineup. And so how long that Dodgers lineup can prop him up is another thing entirely. And, it could be another year, but you might want to move on him before his value plummets, because it will by the end of this season. And so if you're a Freddie Freeman owner and you're looking to maybe pick up maybe an SP2 and a good reliever, or maybe just an SP1, you might be able to find somebody that's willing to part with. You're not going to get like a Mizurowski or someone like that, but maybe you package Freddie with another medium piece and try to trick a inexperienced Paul Scanes owner that is concerned about some of the recent starts that Scanes has had, and you make a slick move like that, and then you've got yourself a long-term stud starting pitcher one. So that's an idea, something like that, or trade him for like an injured Tariq Skubal. I don't know who's going to fall for that, but and I'm not suggesting that anyone's going to take that trade straight up, but certainly in a package deal, it is possible. So yes, it is possible. Pete Crow Armstrong, another interesting one here. PCA is a guy who really carried my team last year, carried me to the finals in this league, and had a very slow start. And he has also started to kick some of that dust off and show us that maybe he's back again. However, I still have my doubts personally. And so some of these are going to be judgment calls because I might be proven wrong. PCA proved me wrong last year when I really didn't think the breakout was real until it was well into the later portion of the season. And he, obviously finished with a 30-30 campaign. I believe it was 31 homers and 36 steals. So that is nothing to scoff at right there. And he's got 6 and 6 for the month now here, and 856 OPS. That's nothing to scoff at either. So, it may be a time to sell high on him, though. You could get a lot. You could get a lot more than you could have a month ago for Pete Crow Armstrong. And so you may be able to package Pete Crow Armstrong with Freddie Freeman and get a Paul Scanes or something like that. That is not outside of the realm of possibility, and that would not be overpaying at all. In fact, that would be a bit of a steal. So anyways, a couple guys that are going to be good targets. One of them is going to be JJ Bleday. And in a redraft league, Bleday probably was just scooped off of waivers over the last week or two. In Dynasty, he has surely been owned for a while now, depending on the size of your league. But again, benches are so deep that there's just not a ton in the way, when you see players that are, in the 50s percentage wise, in the 50s owned, like in my Dynasty leagues, they're long gone. So, look here, Jock Peterson's owned it, and he's only 10% owned across Yahoo leagues. So, JJ, the breakout looks real here. Plays in a very hitter-friendly park, so we love that. He's got 6 homers and 1 stolen base across 97 plate appearances, or 97 at-bats, and posting a 942 OPS. So the breakout does look very real. The dude is swinging a hot bat, and you may still be able to get him for next to nothing. Somebody that just scooped him off waivers, potentially within the last few weeks. And a lot of times people will mistakenly undervalue players because they were just found on waivers. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter if they started the season on waivers or not. What matters is what does their batted ball data look like? Does the breakout look real? And JJ Bleday's batted ball data does back up what we are seeing in the basic numbers. So Bleday is a player to target. And so, yeah, Bladay's a player to target. Miguel Vargas also really, really liking this guy. I'm very high on Miguel Vargas. I've been trying to trade for him and have not had any success as of yet. Vargas's manager in my league, very savvy guy and tough to make trades with. Very tough to trade with. But anyways, yeah, 8 bombs over the last month and 3 stolen bases. That's that's a pretty impressive stat line right there. So, and walking at a decent clip too. You know, maybe not an elite walk rate, but it's not nothing either. So a little above league average, and playing in that suddenly exciting, young, and explosive White Sox lineup is a plus as well. Spencer Steer is a guy, though. If he is still available in your league, scoop him up. I don't expect this to last. I would scoop him up and I would trade him immediately. And that is exactly what I would do. I would scoop up Spencer Steer, start him for now and ride the hot streak, but trade him as soon as humanly possible for whatever you can get and fill a hole in your lineup. Trade him for a good starting pitcher. I would even trade him for an SP2 and not feel like I lost out on that deal at all. Spencer Steer is notoriously one of the most streaky players over the last 3 or so seasons. So, yeah. Andy Pages, he's an interesting one. He has been kind of streaky this year, but again, you want to say, well, it's just because of that lineup. He's got 24 RBIs in the last month. That's eye-popping. You know, in a month, 24 RBIs. You know, I mean, 100 RBIs in a season is considered an excellent season, right? And so, I mean, 24 RBIs in a month, that's on pace to hit, 140 in a season. So that's pretty damn solid. You can attribute a lot of that to the lineup, but the dude's also got 8 home runs in the last month. Now his average has dipped way down as he was consistently hitting above 300 for the first month and a half or so. And so over the last month, his average is the average he carries for this last month is 236. So much lower than most of the names on this list. But again, when you play in that lineup, I mean, look at Freddie. Freddie with the 6 bombs, 2 steals, 19 walks, 19 runs scored. Only hitting 264, not amazing, not bad though. But again, in that Dodgers lineup, it's just like, taking candy from a baby. It's just too easy, So anyway, why don't we move over to pitching now? And we'll look at our season leaders, season total. And Mizorowski, Mr. Mizorowski, is our current SP1 overall. And I don't think that many were surprised by that. We knew this guy was a high K per 9 guy, but we didn't know if we didn't know he was going to be as unhittable as he's been. We knew that we knew that his strikeout rate was going to be really high, but that doesn't always translate to, a sub 2 ERA, sub 0.8 whip, wins, quality starts, all the rest of it. There are plenty of pitchers who historically have had high K per nine, but can't get out of the fourth inning. And so this dude looks to be in the midst of a full-on true breakout if only he can stay healthy. And that is really the only concern. Shohei Ohtani very closely follows him, much lower K per nine, but everything else is even better, right? 9 quality starts, a .74 ERA. That is unbelievable. He is easily, well, it's going to be an interesting race, right? To the Cy Young. I think that either of those two is basically have it locked down barring injuries. So I if it were me, I would probably bet on Misiorowski only because he's going to pitch more frequently. Ohtani, I believe the Dodgers may have now moved down to a 5-man rotation because of injuries, but generally speaking, they're only going to want to pitch Ohtani every 6th game. So that will it will not stay that way always, and so Misiorowski will rack up more innings, which means more Ks, more wins, more quality starts, all of that. But the thing about Ohtani is it's hard to bet against him. The man is so effective whenever he is in there. So that'll be a fun race to watch down the stretch. And then how can you bet against Chris Sale in the NL? And then, I mean, Christopher Sanchez has been lights fucking out, especially over the last month. So, yeah. Let's take a look at our last month, which is really the best, I think, measurement when we're looking at potential trade targets, things of that nature. And there, Misiorowski still on top. So that just shows you that he's been solid all year long. His numbers even better over the last month. .27 ERA. He has basically not been hittable. Unbelievable numbers there. I mean, that is just eye-popping, right? The 49 Ks in 33 innings. We have not seen that from anyone. I mean, I guess Garrett Crochet kind of came close to that at his peak, which I hope we haven't seen Garrett Crochet's peak, but it kind of feels like maybe we have. I don't know. Christopher Sanchez, very close behind him at number 3 overall over the last month. And boy, he is just having an amazing follow-up campaign to his breakout last season. Zach Wheeler been amazing as well. Those two are a huge reason why Philadelphia has crawled out of the cellar all the way to a half game out of the wild card spot. Brian Wu been one of the only one of those Mariners pitchers that were all supposed to be so amazing that has actually been consistent and fairly solid for the most part. He's had a really good month. And then Shohei Ohtani, who we just talked about, bringing in the top 5, coming in at number 5 for the month. And then we scroll down the list a little bit. Braxton Ashcraft, man, he's been surprising, huh? He's been just surprisingly very reliable and solid. He doesn't do anything that completely blows you away, but not walking a ton of guys. So he's keeping that whip under 1. If you're in a categories league, he's not going to ever hurt your ratios too much. He's not going to blow you away with Ks, but he is getting a little bit more than a K per 9 over the last month. And 4 wins and 4 quality starts is really nice, right? Love to have both of those. And that Pirates team is much improved. And so that's a huge reason for that. He's got some run support behind him finally. Yeah. So if we're looking at guys to trade, sell high targets, JT Ginn would be my number one, right? Now, JT has season rank 113, but he's been fairly solid. I mean, he's kind of one of these guys that is, again, not going to blow you away with anything, but good innings eater. About exactly a K per nine. And let's see here. Yeah, a little less than a K per nine on the season, but and then last year a little bit more than a K per nine, and he's much improved from last year, and so the breakout does look like it could be real, but this is a guy I think that you could get a nice return for. If you're looking for prospects or you're looking for maybe a decent utility bat, maybe you're looking for maybe you have an injury and at catcher or something like that, and you need just a decent catcher, I would be willing to move JT Ginn for a player like Liam Hicks, maybe, of the Miami Marlins. Liam Hicks has been one of the more reliable and productive players from the catcher position. And a guy like JT Ginn, moving him, it's not going to destroy your pitching room, you know. As long as you have a little bit of depth in your pitching room, and you can afford to move someone like him, you know. But I would say for most teams, streaming is always an option, dude. And that's why I am always much more apt to trade pitchers, because streaming pitching can be quite easy. And it is batting it can be tough to stream, and tough to find reliable guys that maybe can fill in for injuries and whatnot. And so if you find yourself holding a guy like JT Ginn, and you've got a couple injuries on the offensive side of things, move Ginn. Just start throwing trade offers out there. Eventually someone will take you up on it. It happens all the time for me. Just when I think, oh man, I can't get rid of this player, or I can't fill this hole in my lineup, and then boom, someone sends me something, or someone accepts an offer that I thought there's no way they're going to accept this, and they do. Another guy I would be good with moving would be Joe Ryan. Now, don't get me wrong, Joe Ryan has been one of the more consistent pitchers for Minnesota, and one of the more consistent pitchers in the league over the last couple of years, and not like a top 5 or 10 guy, but a top 25 guy probably, and is pretty clutch. He's going to generate a lot of interest from at least a fair amount of teams in your league, in most leagues. And so if you can dangle someone like a Joe Ryan out there, and target maybe a I don't know, a top 30 bat, you can probably get what you're looking for. And again, Joe Ryan has had a fine season so far, but he's not going to destroy your pitching stats if you move him. So anyways, so that's what we're going to cover tonight. I just want to do a little bit of trade target talk for the most part, and go over some of our top 5-10 players on the season and over the last month. And so we'll do this like, I don't know, once a week or something. Check in on Dynasty Ball, and we are going to mostly do, I'm a categories guy. I'm not a big points guy. I don't do points in any of my fantasy sports except for football. I feel like points was created for fantasy football, categories for everything else. That's just where it is, And so, thank you all for joining me. Please do check out my gaming side of the program, which is most of what I do is just gaming. We cover Wuthering Waves, Neverness to Everness, Genshin Impact, Mongol Star Dive, and even more. So, yeah, please be sure to go over, check out my videos there, check out some of my live streams. I stream Tuesday through Saturday every single week. Around 11, 12 o'clock. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you all so much for joining me. This is El Prazo Man signing off.